Today we're back with 20 more PTFS suggestions from the PTC Discord server, in which I'll rate them on a scale of 1 to 10. So I'm MrBullsFan, and let's get started with Clock 2069, with him wanting more Russian planes, so why not the Tupolev Tu-154. With its first commercial flight in May of 1971, Careless, as his NATO code name, flew passenger and cargo services for Soviet allied country airlines. With its tri-jet configuration powered by its loud NK8 and D30 engines, it was able to travel at a fast 530 miles per hour. Because of its rugged, oversized gear design, it was also able to serve remote areas in Russia with unpaved gravel runways. Inside, its narrow-body 3-3 layout was a little cramped due to its low ceilings. The cockpit has its iconic green panel controls similar to other Soviet planes of the time, with ancient indicators and a yoke for the two pilots. And while we do have the AN-225 and the upcoming AN-22 coming up, we don't have Tupolev as a manufacturer in the game, and that is also combined with the fact that I've always said that we need more Eastern world companies like Russia. This opens up a new can of ideas for liveries, with new airlines like Aeroflot, Azerbaijan Airlines, Air Koryo, and Mia Mongolian being added, existing ones like Lot Polish or in-game KAT, or government liveries like the Russian Air Force. Theoretically, with that type of opening, it would be a good fit. The only objection I can think of, however, is that it does look kinda similar to the already existing Boeing 727, with the S-duct tail design and large leading edges on the tail. I guess the only main differences is that it's Soviet and has no rear door, but usually Orange would like to add planes that have very little close resemblance as possible. Still though, the benefits of adding another Russian airliner to the game would be huge, so let's go ahead and score the suggestion at 8 out of 10. To the Alps we go with Ashkaber's request of adding Cortal Airport because of its iconic runway shape and the need for more small airports. Serving a little ski resort town in France, CVF is high regarded as one of the most dangerous airports in the world. With no lighting on approach, weather conditions like fog make it almost, if not impossible, to land here. When clear though, it still has that hazard risk with a steep upclimb sloping runway, and you can't even go around with the terrain ahead. Even on takeoff, you risk overrunning and falling off the cliff. If you do successfully land here, however, there is a small apron with a hangar and a pretty cute ATC tower. Helicopters also fly to Courchevel, and it's seen with its 7 helipads stationed on the property. Now in PTFS, we do have a collection of dangerous but exotic aerodromes, Lukla, Seba, St. Barths, and while yes, Courchevel would be a really cool add to this group of small general aviation ports, I will say though it is very similar to Lukla. But with the status of Courchevel, I think it will be still a good add regardless, so another 8 out of 10. I am too says PTFS should implement a customizable aircraft weight system to simulate cargo loads and change in takeoff speeds due to extra baggage. This is a very interesting idea, and if added would change how the PTFS plane kit works. An addition like this would make PTFS a little bit more realistic, if it isn't already, and would give players another opportunity to customize their flights. We could have a setting when flying which could give us a slider on what weight setting we want. Then it'll correlate with the plane kit and other factors like wind to create a balance for a good flight experience. In my opinion, as a YouTuber who does these PTFS landing challenges as shorts, it brings a new element that I would certainly enjoy. The problem is its implementation, because while you could just add it and be done with, a lot has to be changed to the plane kit. There are 84 planes in PTFS currently, all of which has different acceleration and stall speed. Adding a new dimension like weights means we have to go through every single plane's coding to fit this in. And it's not just easy as just plug in a specific weight too, as 5 pounds added to a Piper Cub has a larger effect than adding 5 pounds to an A380. I don't know, on paper it's cool, but when we get to the tough stuff, it's very complicated to say to the least, and it makes it very unlikely to be put in. I may be very well surprised in the future because I've been in the past, but I'm gonna go with a 5 out of 10 right now. Our next suggestion comes from Finn the T-Lover with such a pretty suggestion. It's the Supermarine Spitfire for its iconic use during World War II. Like our Chuff Finn has said, the Spitfire was legendary with 20,000 produced within a 10-year span. First flown in 1938, the Spitfire's iconic design helped the Allies in aerial combat versus the Axis. Its curved wings were very methodical with elevated surfaces, washouts on the edges, and detachable tips which would make the plane highly maneuverable. Its fuselage was skinny, its tail was curved, and its tail dragon gear design was durable. The sole prop up front, the MK engines, had powerful horsepower to outmaneuver its competitors in air. All of these components made it very much famed for its victories than its competitor Hurricanes and were vital in the war. I would also love to see Orange tackle the cockpit of the Spitfire from different speed indicators and wirings all around to those beautiful rudder pedals. And if you want, possible liveries could also include the iconic RAF camo. And overall, while widely similar to the Hurricane, and yes, I will deduct some off the score, we need more World War II planes. Just why not add one of the great greatest dogfighters in aviation history. I'm gonna go ahead and give it a 9 out of 10. FC Byron Toby has suggested Whiteman Air Force Base, or KSCL. Named after 2nd Lieutenant George Whiteman, a service member who was killed during Pearl Harbor, it's located in Knob-Noster, Missouri, and is home to the B-2 Spirit after a history as a missile hub. Units like the 509th Bomb Wing and 442nd Fighter Wing are based here, with aircraft like the aforementioned B-2 and A-10 Warthog flown here daily. On this property is a massive apron with several small hangars and larger complexes, fuel depots on the opposite end of the property, and a singular 12,000-foot runway 0119 in the middle of all Whiteman. Now, we recently got McConnell Air Force Base in a recent update, and while yes, the layouts are different, the application is basically the same. From similar locations in real life to similar ATC tower designs, adding something close to usage is something to be considered, especially with the lack of space due to the floating point errors. Whiteman Air Force Base isn't as highly regarded, unfortunately, to justify its addition with resemblance, which is a shame because Whiteman has some good qualities to it. With that in mind though, I'm gonna go ahead and give it like a 7 out of 10, but I wouldn't mind it being added to PTFS. Suggested by Johnny X Wing 23, he says that devs should add frigates and destroyers around an aircraft carrier like the USS. Some reasons he added like new heliports for the Black Hawk and S-92, and an arresting system for them along with making sea operations come alive. To be honest, I'm all down for it. Take for example the USS Gerald R. Ford, and I love the catapults and the OLS, it's just very lonely. And like Johnny said, adding such support is resemblance to the actual thing in real life, so it makes it realistic. Now I want to touch the helicopter features because while the addition of new helis and control systems have been huge for the usage of these rotary machines, we could do more. The bear trap system pulls down the helicopter onto a port via a winch connected to heavier weights. Pulled by a LSO or landing stage officer, the heli slowly descends and is secured for a safe landing. With already existing infrastructure like the H-92 with compatibility, this would be a good supplement in addition to the game. And look, adding more heliports that are standalone would be great. If you want more helicopter usage, you have to incentivize it, and with a huge military backing within the community, frigates and destroyers with heliports would be phenomenal. Now we can go ahead and talk about the arrangement of minesweepers and anti-aircraft warships and more amongst other things, but let's just go ahead and call it here. First perfect score of the day, 10 out of 10. The T6 Texon is suggested by British Chris, with his reasoning by adding a brand new military trainer to the game, as we only have one, the Hawk T1, and would be the first prop one. So the Beechcraft version was introduced in 2001 as a way to train new pilots for the US, Canada, and Greece for example, possibly adding new liveries to the game. Design-wise, its low wings connected to a thin fuselage powered by a singular powerful PT-68 turboprop, and inside there are two seats obviously for your trainee and teacher, with modern displays and middle joystick. This is a very different suggestion when we talk about military aircraft because, you know, we always get the large cargo planes, or fighters, or helicopters, but trainer aircraft are very limited in the plane catalog. Well, obviously with the exception of the Hawk T1, and, you know, it's unique, and boy, I love uniqueness. I'm gonna go ahead and give it a 9 out of 10. Next up is Fraser 07 with the Montreal Miraval airport with its V-shaped runway layout and massive property. So why the ad, especially when it's a commercial failure? Yeah. Let me explain that. Supposed to replace Montreal Dorval, now Trudeau International Airport, its economic failure during the 70s and 80s due to location and lack of demand make Miraval basically useless despite its mandatory use. So with that, this modern facility was closed in 2004 and its passenger terminal is demolished. Today, only cargo airlines operate here, along with factories for the Airbus A320 and Bell Helicopter and some private jet usage. Now, let's say we added it to PTFS. If we really wanted, we could just keep the current stage with a cargo only approach, something new for PTFS. You can add those factors for the A220, private jet terminals, and heck, let's just add the racing course that is on property. Obviously that's up to the devs though, but the biggest takeaway for me at least is that runway layout. With two almost perpendicular runways, 0624 and 1129, creating this butterfly wing design. It's something different, you know, from parallel or intersecting, and would be an iconic add to the game from the air. I don't know, it's a polarizing airport to say the least, but this is one of my favorite ones to talk about today because of its rise and fall. Flick did, but I love the V design, so let's go ahead and go with a 9 out of 10. Fisker 1541 says that the outfit picker should have UGC items in it by inserting the ID and gaining the hat. Now don't get me wrong, I think the outfit picker hats are alright, but if we added the unlimited selection from the Roblox catalog, marketplace, there's massive potential. Like said, if we did something like the catalog avatar creator, we could have access to cool pilot headgear, aviators, and this really cute orange orange plushie. Wait a minute, I actually want one. I mean, you can't say no, look at this thing. But yeah, if added, there would be endless customization, especially for RPs for players, and would be massive for the community. Unfortunately, this does open a can of worms here. You see, as Orange brought up a good point when stating by doing this anytime soon, as he really doesn't want to give out hats for free and only utilize ones made by the Roblox devs. Which, again, good point. I mean, you are entering a huge great point, especially because the Alpha Picker is a game pass. I guess the only way we can utilize these hats though is if we bought them. Good in theory, not great in practice, giving it a 4 out of 10. For the next one, let's go ahead and cover another plane. So MrBullsFan wants to see the StratLaunch added to PTFS. This is very interesting to say the least. The Scaled Composites Model 351 StratLaunch, yeah, that's its official name, was purposed for airline flights after initially made to launch auto rockets. Design-wise, it's really unique, with two skinny fuselage connected to a singular wing that goes through both of the bodies. The wing, in fact, is the longest span of any plane at 385 feet. There are 6 turbofans, 3 on either side, and with these 2 fuselages is 2 cockpits, with the left for flight data and right for the pilot. So the ROC definitely is that type of chat and would be interesting to see in PTFS, except one thing. The blueprint to base the model off doesn't exist, partly because of its lack of flights. I mean, the plane has only flown 10 times since it was first introduced, and the lack of both notoriety within the community and its inability to build it is a problem. Sorry, it's a 2 out of 10. Let's try to bounce back here with a revamp. Archie, yes, would like to see Miller and the Training Century be merged into one and relocated to behind the GR Valley. Whoa, and before I talk about the session itself, it's possible, believe it or not. If Orange decides to resign GR as he floated the idea in the near future, we could see every airport get a makeover. So why not? Very lucky to have an example of this Jewel airport, and shout out to this guy's suggestion. This looks great. It does remind me of LaGuardia a little bit though, with its runway layout, and we could see a large terminal in the north with the Training Century and hangar separated by runway 20 and some heliports down here. And I like the idea of relocating Mellor to behind the mountains because let's face it, GR is widely overshadowing it. And heck, nobody uses the Training Century really, so by combining them and putting them in a prime coastal spot, usage would increase. It's probably unlikely though that we'd be facing airports out of the game because we haven't really done this since the entire map resigned from scratch after the revamped 2015 era, but otherwise I'm down for it. Let's go 8 out of 10. Moving on to ImShip with adding wing vapors to fighter jet. Yes, yes, yes. So let's say I pulled like 10 Gs or something on this F-22 and it's kind of bland right now. But what if we added this water moisture for the wing, visually appealing, more realistic tones for the fighter jets, and would be really cool to see for air shows and display teams. Also, I actually recently played Aeroflight, a brand new flight simulator that I made a video on, and it also had wing vapors, so it could like that in PTFS. Not a hard ad per se, and there's probably some particle effects we could add to the back end of the wing, so low risk, high reward, 10 out of 10. Coastie 555 would like to see a brand new Coast Guard aircraft, the C-27J, as a short medium range search plane. The Alina C-27J Sparta is a variant of the G-222, and is used for search and rescue, patrol missions, and general transport. Coast Guards around the world like the US, Italy, and Australia believe the C-27J is useful in their capabilities. These add possible liveries that may be added on this plane. Design-wise, here's the problem. Very similar to the C-130, and I'm not just talking about the engines because they use the same engines. Body is similar, an overhead wing design, and thick fuselage, and while there are only 4 props on the C-130 compared to 2 on the C-27J, application is the same. And an openable door on the rear like the Coast Guard S-92 would make it different, but still. Now if added, this will be a part of this Coast Guard Game Pass, further bolstering its value proposition, which would be a huge dub, but with my concerns I raised earlier, I'm just gonna go middle of the pack, 7 out of 10. Anyways, while we're on the topic of Coast Guards, let's go ahead and do another one of these, with Shabaro's Coast Guard Training Facility. His reasoning is that it will bolster the Game Pass's value and can spawn helis and planes like the C-130, along with rooms, cafeterias, track, etc. Think of it as a small college, but for the Coast Guard. This is a very creative PTF suggestion because while it isn't really specific per se, this does have some creativity for Orange to fulfill, from the living quarters and customizing the complex to a custom design for runways and aprons and briefing room. There is untapped potential here, and I guess it does leave you guys thinking on what you could actually add here. It's open interpretation for all of us, including Orange, so if you do have any ideas for the Coast Guard facility, let me know. But as a concept itself, and to living up the Coast Guard Game Pass, we're gonna go with a 10 out of 10. Lemons177 would like to see a swift call sign because of the memes, and you've probably seen them. I'll put a couple on on screen, but I mean, you just put it on the Learjet, right? With Flight 87 or something, and go from our Eras tour to watching Travis Kelce play. I don't know. I just can't believe a Roblox aviation YouTuber has to talk about Tay, but like, it's for the views, right? 8 out of 10, I guess, and that's just symphony points. Here's a unique suggestion, Birdie4199 with the good old Mi14 Helicopter. And for those who don't know what is an Mi14, it's not a toaster model, by the way. It's a Soviet naval helicopter with nuclear armed capabilities. Yeah. That turned for worse. The Mi14 is powered by a large rotor and smaller tri-rotor on the rear. Hayes, as NATO call it, utilize a thin fuselage and this weird tail design with whatever this is for say, and the engine is placed on the top of the heli. However, the biggest feature in my opinion would be its amphibious floating. After you retract the gear into an undercarriage, it is able to levitate onto an ocean with its boat-esque hull. It could act like the seaplanes with the effect, but more vertical movement than forward. Inside, well, you can have the Soviet indicator for a cockpit, 3 panels. There would be 4 seats, 2 for the pilot, 1 for the technician, and 1 for the weapon shooter as part of its anti-sub warfare aspect. And if you wanted to go ahead and talk liveries, you could add the Polish Navy, Ukrainian Navy, the Russian Navy, and heck, even North Korea. I don't know, something about this heli really makes me intrigued with me. Whether it's the amphibious aspect of it, or just the mystery of not knowing what the heli was, whatever it is, it did provide some new dimension for the helicopter category if added, either feature or design-wise. 10 out of 10. We have Cascade Mountain wanted to see Staton Dresden Airport instead of PTFS. So this is a small general aviation airport based in Germany near the Dutch border. Positioned between 2 cities, it's named after Staton and Dresden. It has a hometown charm with a collection of small hangars positioned on the apron with a decently large singular runway positioned parallel to a similarly as long taxiway. And he did say to put this on the small island of Orengi, which would be interesting to say to the least. I don't know what would be the purpose of it because it's in the middle of nowhere, but hey, I would enjoy the landing challenges here. It's just your normal GA airport suggestion, which don't get me wrong, it's definitely something you could use more in game. The downside is usage, however, and it isn't the most exciting airport to add, even for GA. I'll give it a 6 out of 10, I guess. Just Patriot 01 says the Cascade Mountain should be added to Orengi to be more realistic and fit the Top Gun mission. So I actually flew into current mountain range with the Top Gun Special, and it's alright, I guess, but excluding the bridge, it doesn't really fully fit the movie. But imagine adding this inside of PTFS. Holy smokes. From high top mountains to evergreen trees to fog overlays, man, no wonder why the movie decided to fly Hornets through here. It's beautiful and would add a charming feel. Great stuff, right? However, this is where the buck stops here. It's highly unlikely. Now, Orengi, at the time of filming this video, is the most recent island added in January 2022. That long ago? Dang. And with that, I severely doubt it will be getting a redesign to warrant adding this. It also doesn't really fit the scenery of Orengi, more tropical instead of the chilly Washington state. To be honest, if you're really adamant in adding this and it's reasonable, just put it on GR, as again, Lawrence does have interest in remodeling it. But right now, this is a very interesting suggestion, but the timing is not right. 5 out of 10. Next is Cat Spotted Star with the vintage but absolutely legendary DC-6 as an important part of pre-jet age airliners and would introduce a new collection of liveries. So the DC-6 was introduced in 1947 with American and United, and many carriers around the globe use it on transcontinental, even international long-distance flights, of course with stopovers. Even today, despite its ancient frame and majority of them being phased out by the 60s by the revolution new jet airliners like the 707 and DC-8, it still flies today as a cargo freighter. Powered by 4 PW2800 double wasp engines positioned on a low set of wings, the DC-6 has a curved fuselage that, in my opinion, kind of look chubby. Look, I couldn't think of a better word. The gear looks cool, and the wings with a curved edge would make it stand out. The cabin will have a 2-2 configuration, and inside the cockpit, this machine will have a different style. Lines of indicators in the middle, levers and switches galore, and those yokes? 3/4 car wheel, right? I also do want to point out there is a major gap in vintage airliners, especially because the oldest plane in vibe introduction is the Boeing 727 in 1964. Anything before that doesn't exist, so adding more planes in this untapped time period could be smart for Orange. The liveries that fit would be also phenomenal as well. Just like the 727, where we saw so many current airlines like United, Northwest, and Air Canada getting retro liveries on the trijet, the DC-6 can also do this. Airlines already in the game like Air France, Americano, Dan Am, KLM, SAS, and United could be re-added, while newer airlines like Ethiopian, Philippine Airlines, and Japan Airlines could be added in this vintage form. Heck, if we really want to get spicy, there could be some sub-variants. One idea is freighter, where its usage is still prevalent in the Arctic with average air cargo. There was even a freighter version with a rear cargo door that retracts the tail, just like the Dreamlifter. That would be a cool feature indeed. Another one I found is another variant for the Presidential Aircraft Game Pass, which has 2 nodes of transport for US presidents. The V118 was used by Presidents Truman and F. Kennedy during their terms, and the livery Truman flew on, the Independence, would be really cool to see in game. There was also other uses for the DC-6 that I found in the military with the US Navy and Air Force. NASA used it for testing, spy combating, if that ever gets added to PTFS, and heck, even a Red Bull livery. Yeah, the former Yugoslavian and Namibian hybrid pod plane is now part of the Flying Bulls display team. I just think the DC-6 has an opportunity to be an awesome addition to the game with so many avenues. If most, if not all, are added that I listed out, it could make the DC-6 one of the best planes in PTFS for so many reasons, and that will catapult it to a 10 out of 10. And our final suggestion comes from Hydrax4142 with the Flying Blahaj, which would be as fast as a walrus and could float on water. Is it me just being an uncultured person, but I don't know what the heck a Blahaj is? So I looked it up. That's interesting. It's a plush from IKEA. I guess it's alright, I guess, but I still don't understand it really. And wait, how dare it be fast as the walrus? I mean, I will and remain a stoic defender of the mighty walrus, and for my sake and Willie's sake, I won't allow the shark to overtake it. It's a 3 out of 10. And there we have it. I went through 20 PTF suggestions. Let me know which one is your favorite. Subscribe if you enjoyed, but I'm MrBullsFan. I'm tired, and as always, take flight. See ya!